Dr. Palmer ran, heart drumming against his ribs, his panting breaths and rapid pulse drowned out beneath the wailing emergency klaxon overhead. He collided with the ship's narrow corridor, shoulder glancing off one wall and into another, feeling as if they were closing in on him, ready to trap him with it. Tyler didn't so much as dare to look behind him, not even out of the corner of his eye. Just knowing it was behind him, gaining on him with every hurried step, was enough to keep him barreling down the corridor. A sealed bulkhead door stood in his way, his trembling fingers grabbing hold of the metal wheel to open it. The wheel didn't budge. He frantically tried to turn it, wordlessly yelling in panic and frustration, slamming the side of his body against the metal surface until he felt pain scorching through his arm. For a split second, he noticed his reflection in the small, circular porthole on the door, everything behind him blotted out by a sphere of darkness, moving, alive. With the loud scraping of metal against metal, the wheel suddenly rotated, turned from the other side of the door. As it swung open, a hand grabbed Dr. Palma by his shirt and pulled him through. He'd barely had a moment to get his bearings and figure out where on the boat he was, before a voice in his head urged him to warn the security agents who had just saved his life. But it was already too late. He shouted for them not to look at it. The loud bangs of small arms fire were already filling the corridor, stray bullets ricocheting off the riveted ship's metal walls. The gunfire muffled Tyler's panicked yelling. He had to get them to hear him somehow. Bullets wouldn't stop it. The doctor grabbed the nearest security agent's arms, the man trying to jostle Palma away so he could continue shooting. The agent ordered an evacuation and requested reinforcements from a mobile task force. "You can't look at it! There's something wrong with it!" Tyler shouted back. Then he realized the shooting had slowly stopped. One by one, the agents had lowered their handguns, staring slack-jawed at the thing coming towards them. Dropping his weapon, the nearby agent did the same, looking directly at the dark sphere. Each of them stepped towards it, mesmerized. The agent that was closest to it gripped its surface. The sounds of him making contact with it and willingly climbing into it made Dr. Palma sick with fear, enough to keep his eyes averted. He slowly started to walk away down the corridor as the next agent, aided by its tentacles, allowed the thing to devour him whole. Then the next did the same, and so did the next. And as Tyler reached the next door, he heard the one who had told him to leave say something.
"I get to go home."
There was hope in his voice. Immediately after came the sounds of his life being snuffed out. Dr. Palma navigated through the winding hallways of the ship, following the line painted on the floor that directed personnel towards the bridge. The security agent's death had bought him a few moments, but he didn't find himself running anymore. He'd slowed to a little faster than a casual jog. Maybe some part of him wanted the thing to catch him. At least then, he wouldn't need to run anymore. Opening the bulkhead door, he stepped onto the bridge, heaving the metal door closed behind him until it slammed closed, keeping it out and trapping him inside. Various dials and switches across cluttered consoles filled the room. Not one member of the ship's crew anywhere to be seen, save for the navigation officer. His body was strewn across the ship's navigational dashboard. Dr. Palma froze on the spot as General Mulhausen stood over the dead officer, face still wet with the man's blood, his sidearm drawn and pistol smoke curling in the air.
"So you stumbled upon me, eh, Palma? Mighty stupid mistake. Mighty stupid."
Something wasn't right here. The general had always been the strict type. In addition to being vain, he had insisted that the rest of the crew call him General, despite him only being the captain of the security department. But this was different from his usual severity. There was a menacing vacancy to his demeanor. Even if he hadn't been currently brandishing his firearm, he'd be unsettling. It was as if he wasn't quite himself. As he turned around, Dr. Palma realized that, whatever the cause, General Mulhausen clearly wasn't in a stable state, which made the fact that he was armed all the more of a worry. Dr. Palma begged the general not to shoot. The general looked blankly at the gun in his hand for a moment.
"I'll only need this if we come to a disagreement,"
he said, sliding the pistol back into his holster.
"That's not gonna happen, is it? When the general tells you to jump, your only question should be, how high? So, Doc, are you ready to go home?"
Something had fallen from the sky that night, Elias had been up late, gazing out at the stars dancing on the surface of the sea. If he hadn't been so high up, watching from a spot up in the mountains, then he would have mistaken the moving light for just a crashing wave catching the starlight. The comet streaked across the inky night, leaving a tail of flame in its wake. He raced back towards the village, following the path of what he assumed was a meteor. By the time he made it back, it had already fallen, striking the ground a kilometer or so outside of the village, fortunately missing any of the buildings, now nestled in a deep crater. Elias had to tell the elder what he'd seen, wondering if the falling object was some kind of good omen. The men arrived to investigate the next day. They descended seemingly out of thin air, cordoning off the area and refusing to explain to anyone exactly what was going on. A brutish officer then commanded 3 men from the village to come and assist their efforts. Elias knew one of them, waiting nearby for him to return so he could ask exactly what was in the crater. He never came back. Not one of them did. Any questions Elias had about what he had seen fall from the sky would remain unanswered when the general's men turned their guns on the villagers. Tyler hadn't wanted to leave. His office had become the closest thing to a home he had, the familiarity and order of it providing him with plenty of comforts. Now he was standing on a boat, feeling the ground rocking beneath his feet, the roar of the sea all around him. Some might have found it liberating and exciting to receive an assignment like this. Dr. Palma would have rather been anywhere else. There was a need for a containment specialist, but the prospect of working in the field, even with a real, active anomaly, only brought with it feelings of dread. The ship listed gently, a change in the tide. He had familiarized himself with the briefings that had come with his abrupt reassignment, but that was the only information he'd been given. No other details, no further context beyond the 7 casualties that had occurred the day before, 3 civilians and 4 personnel. Whatever the security task force had hauled aboard this ship, it clearly posed some threat, and the fact that that was all he knew about it had Tyler on edge. Then there were the rumors, whispered he'd overheard since he'd arrived on board, dropped off via helicopter, only to catch wind of 2 security agents talking about the incident in the village in Portugal the day before.
The general said we were protecting Foundation secrets, one whispered to the other. But what we did yesterday, all those people. Shut it, you know why, argued another voice. Amnestic supplies are low, and we couldn't take any chances if word about this thing got out. But we killed innocent people. They weren't doing anything. They were just curious about what had landed outside their village. Enough, the other agent hissed. Imagine being in Mulhausen's shoes to make a decision like that. It was a tough call, but it's his job to make those. Ours is to listen.
Dr. Palma had been warned about the general while en route to his new posting. He was only a captain, yet he'd been placed in charge of the containment operation. Mulhausen was antiquated, a militaristic relic long past his prime, his every decision stubborn and severe in equal measure. His reputation for crossing the line was one that carried with it a lot of worrying statistics, namely, fatalities. Were it not for his efficiency in producing results, the Foundation would have likely awarded him with an early retirement and a heavy dose of amnestics to chase it down with. Heading to the mess hall, Tyler spotted a familiar face sitting alone at one of the tables. Rob was a senior member of personnel responsible for crunching the numbers on various costly endeavors. His bored expression mirrored exactly how Dr. Palma felt as he stared at what was meant to be hamburger on a polystyrene plate. The meal and the thing it was served on probably shared the same texture and nutritional value. Tyler went to sit down opposite, leaving a stack of case reports he'd been carrying on the table's surface. Dr. Palma asked him if he needed a partner.
Do I look like I'm ballroom dancing here?
Rob answered sarcastically. It didn't take long for the pair of them to begin lamenting the assignment they were both currently stuck on. Tyler's earlier concerns had dwarfed the fact that, despite being there to help contain an anomaly, he hadn't even seen what he was meant to be working with. It wasn't exactly conducive to him fulfilling his role as a containment specialist if he wasn't allowed to know ahead of time what the anomaly even was. Despite having the stature and stare of a corpse, one of the few things that gave Rob life was indulging in idle gossip. Workplace rumors and classified secrets were like a defibrillator jolting him with energy. Rob asked Palma whether he knew anything about the anomaly they were all meant to be attending to.
Only the damage it's done,
Palma answered bleakly.
Besides, I'm only here to oversee research. I doubt I'll get close to whatever it is, and if the general wants to put key personnel in close vicinity with the thing,
and I'll be abandoning ship faster than you can say high-risk containment protocol violation. There were still a few more hours to kill until he was due to oversee the initial tests. The conversation shifted to home, something that had always eluded Tyler, but that Rob had plenty to say about. He missed his daughter, Mathilde, and made it no secret how eager he was for this expedition to be over so he could visit her. Part of Tyler wished he could relate. He'd never felt like anywhere had ever really been his home, but he enjoyed hearing Rob talk about his and encouraged him to go on. Little did either of them know, this would be the only time they'd get to talk properly. Testing would provide the answers to Tyler's burning questions, but they did little to offer him any reassurance. He joined a pair of junior researchers, Santos and Torres, in a small chamber full of computers and scientific instruments. At the far side was a large shuttered window. Without even seeing beyond it, Dr. Palma knew that's where the anomaly was. A few short moments later, he'd be proven right.
Rise and shine, eggheads. Here's the monster of the day,
General Mulhausen declared smugly as he made his abrupt entrance. Pulling a lever, he raised the shutters and gave Dr. Palma a look at exactly what he'd been brought in to contain. Inside a large, rusty chamber beyond the thick glass was a large, fleshy orb. It looked almost tumorous, thanks to the sickly color of it. 3 times the size of a human being, a series of short, tentacle-like appendages protruded from its slimy surface. On the lower region of the sphere was a large hole with enough space for a person to enter, although Tyler doubted that they'd ever be seen again if they crawled inside. He assumed that's what had happened to the unsuspecting villagers in Portugal. The mass seemed to be steadily undulating. It was living.
You got a couple of days to tell me what the hell is going on with this thing, Mulhausen declared, pacing in front of Dr. Palma and the 2 junior researchers. Don't waste time staring. You got work to do.
Then Tyler made a mistake. He asked what the anomaly could do. General Mulhausen's answer came in the form of calling a member of D-Class personnel into the room, a man in his 50s, haggard and terrified. With total disregard for his safety, Mulhausen ordered the D-Class to enter the chamber and look directly at the dark, fleshy thing. The man did as he was told, but then couldn't seem to look away when the general instructed. He began weeping, timidly stepping towards the anomaly, only to rush towards it, unfazed by the general's instructions. Unable to stop himself, he ran straight into the opening of the orb, crawling into the fleshy mass, shouting incoherently until he had gone.
"He won't come back," Mulhausen said bluntly. "None of them do."
Dr. Palma was shocked, outraged at the pointless and callous waste of life that the general had enacted. His tone and familiarity with the object were the only clues Palma needed to hear confirm his suspicions, that Mulhausen had used the villagers to test the anomaly back where they'd found it. As much as he tried to maintain composure, Tyler couldn't let this stand. He had to say something. Dr. Palma plucked up the courage to lay into the general for his inhumanity. He raged at the man, calling him a monster for wasting human life to prove a mere point.
"You're not in charge of this operation. I'm here to do whatever I deem is right for the mission."
The general stepped closer. His stony face was uncomfortably close, eyes wide and goading.
"I make the tough calls, not you, Doctor. You'll follow your mandate and respect the chain of command. Your job is to make sure that thing stays contained."
He raised an arm, a single finger pointing to the window.
"Or I'll gladly throw you in there myself."
As Mulhausen went to leave, Santos murmured something about the reports. There had been 7 documented deaths, 3 villagers and 4 personnel. Reluctantly, Dr. Palma chased the general out into the hallway and called after him. "There's 4 additional deaths listed in the report. Did you send them into that thing too?" Dr. Palma shouted. "We don't know anything about it and you're just feeding it bodies?"
"I can do whatever the hell I like. Get the hell out of my face. That's an order."
General Mulhausen barked back, wide-eyed and angry. That had been only a few days before the alarms. Dr. Palma had studied the security recordings from the anomaly's chamber for hours at a time, trying to determine just what had compelled the D-Class to run at the fleshy object with no regard for his own safety. The audio accompanying the footage was garbled, with poor quality recordings of already incoherent babbling and slurred speech. Listening to it over and over again, Dr. Palma couldn't figure out what the man was saying until he slowed the audio down. Then, it became clear. The man had been repeating one word, so much and in such a manner that it was unrecognizable, but now he could hear it. home. Tyler had been in the mess hall with Rob again, not really paying any attention to what his friend was saying. He intercepted fragments, mostly complaints from Rob about missing his wife and daughter. Palma was still thinking about the anomaly, and about how General Mulhausen had been acting more like a mafia boss than the senior commanding officer of this operation. Even he forgot sometimes that he wasn't even a general, only a captain that everyone called general. It seemed like the power had gone to his head. The sound of the klaxon pulled Dr. Palma abruptly back to reality as blood-red emergency lighting drenched the cafeteria. Everyone started hurriedly rushing for the emergency exits, although the concern that they were on a boat was ringing as loud as the alarms in Tyler's ears. Where were they supposed to go in the middle of the ocean? He and Rob rushed to the deck, other personnel racing past them under the dark, indifferent sky, staring down at them with a million pinprick eyes of starlight. In the state of mounting panic, Dr. Palma didn't notice that Rob had stopped following him until he caught sight of him staring at something. Rob muttered something about going home. The anomaly was loose. All Dr. Palma caught was a brief glimpse before urging himself to look away. He tried to grab Rob, but he'd already started frantically running towards the fleshy object. "I'm coming home, Mathilde," he yelled, stopping once the thing had enveloped him. Now standing on the bridge with the general, it was obvious to Tyler that the object's influence had extended to Mulhausen too. But instead of drawing him in, he was using him to do that to others. Palma watched as Santos was given to the tumorous black orb, lured with false promises that he was being sent home, that his home had somehow been brought aboard the ship.
We brought your home all the way here. Isn't that nice?
The empty shell of General Mulhausen said before he compelled Santos to track down Torres and send her home too. Then it was Palma's turn. The husk of Mulhausen, filled with the whims of the fleshy tumor, grabbed him and screamed at the doctor to look at the object. And he did. He saw his house, his family's old home back in Portugal. They were in there waiting for him, waiting for Tyler to come home. But then he remembered the nightmares, the raised voices, the fighting. This wasn't his home. The facade melted away, the inside now resembling a worn-down apartment. The furniture was all tinted an ugly gray, the walls coated in red meat. Instead of wood and glass, everything was made from flesh and bone. One of the reclining chairs had veins beneath its surface, and Torres's face peering out of it. Rob's eyes were in the wall. A crude arm, a mess of different body parts, reached out towards Dr. Palma. More and more of them sprouted from the floor and the walls, clawing at him, trying to grab him and keep him there, trying to bring him into the living room. Tyler ran right out of the disgusting tumorous orb all the way back to his quarters. He ducked inside the tiny, cramped closet space, pulling the door shut and holding it tightly, his knuckles whitening. Listening, he waited for any sounds of movement. There was silence. Not another living soul aboard the ship, except him and the thing. Hours passed when the whir of helicopter blades and the clomp of heavy boots broke the silence. Mobile task force operatives searched the ship from stem to stern, finding an exhausted and terrified containment specialist in a closet. Despite having their guns trained on him, for the first time in a while, Tyler Palma felt like he was safe. He was home.
Command,
One of the agents said into his radio.
we've located one survivor, moving to reestablish containment of SCP-002.
Check out the DrBob Patreon and become a junior researcher today. Now go and watch another entry from the files of DrBob, like SCP-002, The Living Room.